HARK, we are here. It is time for yet another episode of Star Wars Unlimited. This week, we're going to be reviewing the Cunning Aspect. I put review in quotes because, again, like I said, it's not a tier list. It's a review in terms of my eyes of what things I think are going to be good and potentially could be better. All the different things. Obviously, it's subjective. I'm not saying any of this is objective fact. There's a lot of things that a lot of people will agree with on this, and there's a lot of things that a lot of people will disagree on this. And that is your right as a person on the internet. But speaking of review, doing the same thing as last time, we'll go over Cunning Villainy, then we'll go over Cunning Heroism, and then we'll go over Cunning Agnostic. And it should be fun to take a look at these things. So without further ado, let's get right in. So, as we normally do, we're going to start off here with the villainy side of Cunning. And to start us off, it would actually be easier for me to tell you the bad cards in this than it would be for the goods and potentials. I'm not necessarily going to do that. You know what they are. But Cunning Villainy has so many good cards that do so many good things. It's really hard to track down to just a couple of cards that end up being really good. But we're going to try. In terms of the absolute best cards, Boba Fett Disintegrator, 100%. This thing deletes enemy units, but also can survive itself with attacks, even if it doesn't necessarily get to use its on attack. Bosk is very good. Cunning always wants to play events. So if you have your Bosk on the board, you play your event, you resolve it, then you deal the damage with Bosk. And then No Good to Me Dead is one of the best exhaust-based quote-unquote removal tools. It doesn't obviously remove it, but it does keep it out of play for a maximum of 2 rounds. And it's those 3 are just going to be the cards you're going to see in every single Cunning Villainy deck. Any deck that uses Cunning and Villainy together, you're going to see these 3. In terms of cards that have really good potential, 7th Fleet Defender, a shielded fighter coming in on the board at 3/2 for 3. It's lower on the end for a 3 cost, but given the fact that it has a shield, means it can deal with opposing units on attacks or survive longer than you would otherwise. Fett's Fire Spray is another one that is an absolute, like, that should have been included in the previous category, but we're just going to deal with it the way that it is, especially if you're playing Boba Fett as your leader or in the future potentially Jango Fett. I love Bounty Hunter Crew. This is actually one of my favorite cards in the entire set. Being able to ambush, deal with something for 4 health, and get an event back from your discard pile, whether that's a No Good to Me Dead, or if you're playing other Cunning Agnostic events like Shoot First and Surprise Strike, those are going to be really good to pull off, comboed with Bosk. It's a super easy combo play to just get stuff going on down the line. I do like the combination of Bib Fortuna and Jabba the Hutt, which could potentially make your 2-cost trick events free. You do have to play Bib Fortuna and exhaust him the next round to be able to do that. Bib effectively counts as a resource for any event, but because Jabba reduces a trick event and allows you to pull a trick event off the top of your deck, it's really good. Cunning Villainy might be the single strongest aspect combination in terms of style and morality, but it really just all depends on how you're going to end up playing. So in terms of strongest cards, in my opinion, obviously, Boba Fett, Bosk, No Good to Me Dead, Fett's Fire Spray. In terms of cards with the highest levels of potential, 7th Fleet Defender, Bounty Hunter Crew, and Jabba the Hutt with Bib Fortuna catching on the back run. Cartel Spacer, another really good card, especially if you do have those extra Cunning units, because it does allow you to exhaust. Cunning likes exhausting things. It likes removing things from threats without actually taking them off the board permanently. Cunning Heroism, less obviously good as Cunning Villainy, but still some really good stuff on the board. Starting off with Leia Organa Defiant Princess, the ability to either bring one of your resources back or exhaust an opposing unit when played for 2 is really good. She's a rebel, she's a 2/2. She has a lot of staying power in the format that will allow her to do the thing you need to do that either your deck is based upon or the situation requires you to do. Your opponent drops a leader and is ready to annihilate you. Guess what? Here comes Leia exhausting your leader and you can't do anything about it. Millennium Falcon is really good. Units that enter play and can do things immediately, maybe not necessarily on that specific action, but at least the next action are always going to be good. And you can bring this back to your hand with not paying the upkeep cost for it to be able to continuously use it. Sure, it costs 3 every time, but that's effectively a 3 cost 3/4 that can attack the same round every round Not very many cards get to be able to say that. And then we have Han Solo, the Ambush, shoot first, knock a person out, and Spark of Rebellion is another really good card that allows you to look at your opponent's hand and discard a card from it. In terms of card potentials, I love Rogue Operative, very handy in sealed and draft, basically having a 3-cost 4 attack on attacks with that raid 2 and ignoring Sentinel and shields, super good. Chewie's really good on defense because it's hard to deal with it at 6 health. It doesn't immediately die to most of the big removal pieces like Open Fire, Takedown. It will die to Vanquish. You can just bypass it with other Saboteurs and stuff like that. But if you can't deal with that, this Chewie's coming back and fighting as many units as it possibly can. And everybody's favorite card art, Bamboozle here. This is a very good sideboard option if you know your opponent's going to be running a lot of upgrades to be able to exhaust a unit like Cunning likes to do, and then send those upgrades, even if they're just experience tokens and shields, which just disappear. So those are all the top cards. Obviously, I love my Spectres. I love Ezra. I love Chopper, but those are for very specific decks. I don't think you're going to see either of them in core Cunning decks that are not also Hera decks. So, but top cards again, Leia, Falcon, Han, Spark of Rebellion, most potentials, Rogue Operative, Chewbacca, Bamboozle. And here is where we get into the meat and potatoes of Cunning. What makes Cunning one of the best aspects in the entire game? In terms of our double Cunning cards, Cantina Bouncer is really good. It's basically a 5-cost waylay with a body. Cunning as a double cost card is also very good, being able to return a leader with 4 or less power, or give one of your units +4, or exhaust up to 2 units, or have your opponent discard a random card from their hand. That one's probably not going to be as often used, but being able to potentially remove from threatening motions up to 3 total units, or give one of your own units its own threat, always good. And again, Cantina Bouncer. Bodhi is probably going to be pretty good in specific strategies, but I think right now you're not really too worried about what he can do. 3 costs, double Cunning 3/3, not terrible if you're running double Cunning, but being able to discard a non-unit card isn't as effective as you probably think it would be. Sure, it might help eliminate some of the removal, but if your opponent is just flooding you with a lot of units, you really can't affect that. In terms of single Cunning cards that are absolutely crazy, Greedo, 1-cost 3/1. It's got the Death Star Stormtrooper stats on it, but it has a when defeated ability that allows you to deal 2 damage to a ground unit if you discard an event off the top of your deck. Crafty Smuggler is a really good 2-cost 2/2 with a shield coming into play. Gamorrean Guard, I think, is also very good in terms of being a 4-cost 4/4. If that's all it did, that's fine. It's not necessarily as playable, but if you have other Cunning units, which you probably will, you're getting a Sentinel in addition to that. And then in terms of events, Shoot First, Asteroid Sanctuary, Sneak Attack, Surprise Strike, Waylay, all 5 of those are just absolutely incredible cards. I've come around Asteroid Sanctuary, seeing it play, seeing it utilized. I think it actually is very good, especially for its 2 cost, given that it can do 2 things if you meet the criteria on it. But Shoot First, allowing you to eliminate a unit without sacrificing your own unit. Sneak Attack, allowing you to get something in that allows you to deal damage to your opponent or get other benefits based upon different things while your unit comes in ready. Surprise Strike, +3. You're surprised. You didn't expect that happening. And then Waylay, again, popping something back to your opponent's hand. In terms of cards with the most potential, Outmaneuver, being able to exhaust each unit in an arena, both sides. This is effectively the Cunning quote-unquote board wipe. It again, as Cunning, as I've said multiple times in this video, Cunning doesn't necessarily remove units permanently, but it does remove them long enough for you to be able to deal with them if necessary. Syndicate Lackeys, Ambush, kill anything with 5 health. Snapshot Reflexes, being able to effectively get the same type of Surprise Strike, but getting a +1/+1 instead. Disarm, really good. Your opponent has a leader on the board, let's say a Grand Inquisitor. You disarm it, now your opponent's Grand Inquisitor isn't dealing damage, and you're not really worried about it, and you can eliminate it with impunity. Strafing Gunship, another thing. Being able to have a space unit that can deal with ground units, always really good. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes down to it. So, strongest cards for Cunning, I'm going to say Cunning, Greedo, Crafty Smuggler, Shoot First, Asteroid Sanctuary, Sneak Attack, Surprise Strike, and Waylay. These levels of potential, we're going to say Outmaneuver, Snapshot Reflexes, Disarm, Syndicate Lackeys, Gamorrean Guards, and Strafing Gunship. And that is all she wrote for the review. Cunning, I still think, is one of the stronger aspects. I think a lot of people might be sleeping on it. People who are running Boba Command with Energy Conversion Lab. They're seeing a lot of benefit out of their cunning stuff. But other than that, I'm not seeing a lot of cunning decks out there. I'm seeing a lot of Emperor Vigilance, a lot of Sabine Command, a lot of Leia Aggression. I think cunning is pretty slept on, and I think a lot of people undervalue the fact that cunning can do so many different things with its cards. And once the meta gets solved in terms of aggression being not as effective as it is right now, and moving forward with the rest of this first set, and honestly, for the future, I think cunning stonks go up and up and up because there's going to be more cards. Shadow of the Galaxy is probably going to come out with another good batch of command cards that will be really good going forward. So get your Bobas, get your Throns, get your Jins, and get your Hans, and get ready, and your cunning bases, and get ready to play a lot of cunning when the meta shifts and when the next set comes out, because I really do think that even though a lot of people are sleeping on it, cunning might be the strongest aspect in the entire game. So with that, that is all that's all she wrote for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Remember to like and comment on the video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on all my lovely social medias at RybackStun. More videos as they come, and with that, I will see you in the stars.